Tonight on Business Live, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, describes rising inflation rate as a complicated matter that will be dealt with decisively at the ongoing Monetary Policy Committee meeting.
This week, the MPC will be meeting. I do not want to preempt what the committee will decide, but I think it's a very complicated situation.
We will hear from the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana challenging its members to migrate from provision of assurance services to fraud risk assessments that will ensure safety of organizations from losses and violations.
Audit is evolving, our function is evolving. It is now future focused, providing foresight to management and then helping them to achieve their objective rather than telling them what has gone wrong.
We have all these and more coming up shortly. To stay with us. Tonight, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has described the rising inflation rate of nearly 24% as a complicated matter that will be dealt with decisively at the ongoing Monetary Policy Committee meeting that began today. In most scenarios, the policy rate, which is the rate at which commercial banks borrow from the Bank of Ghana, is higher than the inflation rate, but that will not be the case this time around. Speaking to Bloomberg, the governor says the rising inflation is a surprise to his team, but will take major decisions to address the matter.
A year ago, inflation in Ghana was near single digits. In particular, we were at 7.5%. And then we find ourselves a year later in high double digits. It's a very complicated environment. As you yourself are aware, we've just come out of COVID. Ghana, fortunately, was able to weather the impact of COVID well without recording a negative growth rate. And it seemed as if the economy had picked up significantly by the end of 2021 with a positive growth rate of about 5.4%. So at the central bank, we had anticipated this. In November last year, we raised the policy rate by 100 basis points. And then we were rather surprised by the inflation rate, which came out later on after that, in February in particular, which triggered the 250 basis points adjustment in the policy rate. This week, the MPC will be meeting. I do not want to preempt what the committee will decide, but I think it's a very complicated situation. As you said, inflation is about nearly at 24%, and we need to take a position on what to do with the current policy rate at 17%.
Well, on stabilizing the economy, the governor says his outfit has had limited set of instruments to manage liquidity and interest rate.
The role of the central bank in stabilizing has been very clear. I mean, we have a limited set of instruments, trying to manage liquidity and trying to manage interest rates. And that's what we have done in the last year or so. As you said, we have to be conscious of the impact of both the external developments and internal developments on exchange rates. And as if markets get tighter and we see capital beginning to flow out, obviously the interest rate instrument will have to do its part of the work. At home, we are trying to manage liquidity very tightly to ensure that we don't have excess liquidity fueling further inflation and exchange rate depreciation.
And that's the BOG's governor there in an interaction with Bloomberg. Away from that, the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana has challenged internal auditors to move away from the provision of assurance services to fraud risk assessments that will ensure the safety of organizations from losses and violations. Chairman of the Research and Publication Committee, Ebenezer Kojo Oweri Miracle, believes that this is very critical to the sustainability of today's business in the corporate world. He was speaking as part of the 2022 Internal Auditors Awareness Month, of which we have more in this report.
The traditional role of internal auditors is to provide assurance in the areas of governance, risk management, and control. However, due to digitalization and changing trends in modern business, Chairman, Research and Publication Committee of the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana, Ebenezer Kojo-Ware-Miraku, wants internal auditors to exhibit skills that would trigger value addition whilst helping businesses achieve their set objectives.
As internal audit evolve, let us position ourselves so that we rather see it as collaborative effort, but not identification of faults or errors. We rather see as future focused, because we are able to scan the environment both local and globally and draw management's attention to what can go wrong and how they need to position themselves. So as a result, we should be talented. We should develop our skills and knowledge such that we'll be able to do this and understand the business where we are. When we're able to do that, we see that we are championing change. Organizations are changing. Do we wait until a consultant is engaged to champion the change? No. We have to position ourselves and champion change of excellence when it comes to our entities. So internal audit is evolving. Our function is evolving. It is now future focused, providing foresight to management, and then helping them to achieve their objective rather than telling them what has gone wrong.
Harriet Ekuya-Kakari, president of the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana, rubbished the perception that internal auditors are scaremongers. She told Joy Business they are rather trusted advisors who identify red flags and proffer solutions to the problems.
We are trusted advisors. We are in the organization to provide foresight. We are in the organization to help management achieve its objectives. We are not there as policemen, as people think, but we are there to provide assurance services. We are there to provide consulting services. We are there to add value to our organizations. So that is what we want to portray to our country, that we are there as trusted advisors. They can count on us when it comes to providing foresight, because internal auditors are able to evaluate emerging trends and risk and advise management. We are able to identify red flags in terms of fraud so that we can alert management for them to put in place measures to curb its occurrence.
This year's Internal Auditors Awareness is expected to sensitize about the essence of internal auditing in every business.
Well, a cross-section of Ghana's market queens have been oriented on the country's tax regime. It comes as estimates from the Ghana Revenue Authority show that less than 20% of informal traders at the Central Business District of Accra pay their taxes. Here's a report. The Ministry of Trade, Ghana Enterprise Agency and the Ghana Revenue Authority took turns explaining basic tax laws binding the informal sector. Deputy Minister in charge of retail trade, Nana Siama Ayitey, tells Joy Business the move is to raise awareness over the government's resolve to mobilize domestic revenue.
They don't really have the understanding of how some of these things are supposed to be working, how the input and output and the new tax era that we are in, the introductions of the new systems, they needed some education and information to be able to access and go through it as they should. Because to them, sometimes they see some of these things as a ripoff. But for us, if we are able to give them the information that they require, they would not be able to, they would not allow anybody to give them any false information. That for them, they would see it as a ripoff.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Minister has expressed the government's resolve to deal with key issues burdening female traders, including access to credit and infrastructure.
So this is a whole women group of traders. Looking at the data now, there are about 6,000 of them already recorded, and we are going to have these programs in phases. We intend to see how best to be able to give them the credit facility that they require, and as we give them the credit facility that they require, another thing that we should ensure is how they are able to do their bookkeeping and keep their books clean, how they go about with their accounting, and we should also be concerned with how their tax obligations.
The traders' engagement is a follow-up to a previous meeting between the Trade Ministry and the trading community. The business community will be making a case for the promulgation and passage of the Ease of Doing Business Act. This act is aimed at ensuring that business regulations are applied according to best practices and international recognition. The chief executive for the CEOs Network, Ayitey, tells Joy Business that this year's Ghana CEO Summit, which is slated for the 30th of May in Accra, will be used as a platform to make the push. Here's more.
Committed to creating an enabling environment for the conduct of business in Ghana, the call to action by the CEO Summit this year is for the passage of an Ease of Doing Business and Anti-Red Tape Act to promote business transformation through digitalization. According to the Chief Executive of the CEO Summit, Ayitey, the passage of the Act is the surest way to eliminate rigid conformity to procedures and requirements in government services, which only creates redundancy and bureaucracy.
Ghana's economy and doing business is at the heart of every CEO. Is it a case of one step forward, two steps backwards, or two steps forward, one step backwards? And our major call to action this year at the summit is calling on governments to pass the Ease of Doing Business and Anti-Red Tape Acts this year. Since the establishment of the Ghana CEO Network, the major concerns of CEOs has been the ease of doing business, the issue of regulators.
Speaking on behalf of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Head of Communication Charles Opoku pledged the support of the agency to this year's summit since it has been a successful platform for engagement by many businesses.
This year's theme, Digital Leadership for the Economy, Leading Digital Business and Government Transformation, is one that is particularly dear to us, primarily because of its stated objectives of fostering economic development by leveraging digital technology. As you may be aware, or you may be familiar with this information, Ghana has in recent years been keen on its digital transformation with initiatives such as the digitization of the port systems, the introduction of interoperability, digital address systems, and most importantly, the national identification systems. And margins is here.
This year's is the 6th edition of the summit since the initiative was launched in 2016. It is under the theme, Digital Leadership for the Digital Economy, Leading Digital Business and Government Transformation.
You're still watching Business Live. Still to come in the bulletin tonight on the Joy Business Van, we feature Audit Ghana, which recruits job seekers into various fields of work amid the country's high unemployment rate. We have more. To stay with us. You're welcome back. Let's now bring you updates on international business trends. And of course, that'll be it for Business Lab. But I want to share with you some of the top stories that are making the headlines on myjoyonline.com. If you want to check that one out, we have the cost of borrowing to go up again as MPC begins its 106th meeting, and also that of the WTPO conference, where the Continental Free Trade Agreement area is eyeing $450 million in Ghana's SME market. We have more news on myjoyonline.com. Many thanks for watching. We'll leave you with commodities.